Welcome back to the SportsMax Zone. Social media giants Facebook have announced they are taking measures to tackle online abuse directed at football players following an increase in racist messages directed to them on their Instagram platform. Facebook's content policy manager, Fadzai Madzingrira, says Instagram will start to remove problematic accounts.
It is horrifying to have to see the sort of abuse that any one person has to go through, especially these individuals based on who they are. That's why we're making the announcement on taking stricter measures against people who violate our rules, specifically in Instagram direct messaging, where to date we would have placed them in a block for a set amount of time. Going forward, we will actually be removing those accounts altogether instead of extending that time, which allows us to move more quickly against these accounts in Instagram direct messaging. Racism in football is a lot bigger than social media platforms. There are conversations that need to happen offline as well if we're all going to take responsibility for stopping this abuse.
Facebook's move comes after the United Kingdom's government, through its Secretary of State for Digital Culture, Media and Sport, says they will change the law to make social media companies more accountable for malicious content. Brent, welcome to Move by Facebook.
I think it's a pressured move. They don't have a choice, really. I mean, let's be honest here. It's been years since players have been attacked, managers, of course, the English FA, the Premiership, the EFL all came together and kicking out racism recently to put them under some more pressure, and then the UK government as well. So look, they've only done this because they're under pressure. This is a reaction to the pressure that they have been receiving. And the reason why they've done it is, as I said, is because of the mounting pressure that they've been getting. So it's not welcome by me. At the end of the day, they had no choice. They had to do it.
Yes, and of course, Fadzai was saying that, racism is bigger than social media. And do you see this being a step in the right direction to at least, if not eradicate racism, but, lessen the amount that takes place?
We've had, I would even call it step in the right directions. We've had some twinkle toe movement when it comes to the knee that they take before the game, the T-shirts that are being worn. Look, none of this is answering the real questions. And the real questions is, when you have 6 out of 91 clubs in football in England with black or Asian managers, 6 clubs out of 91, that tells you why you have that problem. When you have a leadership diversity code that was developed by the English FA being rejected by 27 clubs out of 72, 27 clubs, supported it out of 72. And that, of course, is for the integration and increasing of diversity and inclusion in the clubs itself, as it relates, of course, from the leadership side, where they would want more persons of color in these positions. Right. Clubs outright rejected that. So for me, until that starts happening, until you start seeing persons of color in the leadership roles, we're just talking about little tinky, little footsteps, and not the major footsteps needed to eradicate racism.
George, is Brent onto something? And what about what Facebook is doing, Facebook and Instagram?
Well, Brent is correct that they were obliged to do so because some of the top footballers have been saying that they're going to delete their Instagram accounts. Now, you can imagine Facebook without Cristiano Ronaldo with his world record number of followers and Messi and the others banding together and leaving, or not even banding together, just leaving on block. Yeah. And that would be a significant blow for the social media groups. But I have a perspective that I have to take time over it so that it's easy for people to misinterpret what you say. So here I go. We all know what race and hate speech is because someone says something to you, gets your hackles up, and we know what hate speech is. And Brent has spoken on this show of his experiences as a black man playing football in the UK and things that have been said to him at games and when he's gone out into the town to get his shopping done, go to the gas station or wherever he's spoken about that. So he has lived the experience. I think we're going to get to a muddle at some point because what really is hate speech or racist speak? Is it criticism that I don't like, that I report as hate speech? Is it someone saying something to me that I don't like again and I report it as racially abusive and then compel the social media company to take it down? And I raise that because what about and I hate to say this because it really doesn't exist, free speech. There's no such thing as free speech, yeah? But the concept of free speech is what exists, but in reality, there's no such thing as free speech. You can't say anything you want to say wherever because there are rules, right? So really isn't free speech. But the concept of free speech and how the examples the circumstances I just cited, how they reconcile with free speech. Because here's the thing now, Brent, Mariah. The world has been built on, the democracies have thrived on persons being free to say what they want. And you may not like it, I may not like it, but other people may not be offended by it. And people say, well, it's freedom of speech, freedom of expression, let it go. And I give you a classic example. I was bowled over the Christmas period when I was listening to a program about the top 20 or 25 songs in the UK to end the year. Brent Sancho, I'm looking at you because you've lived there, you know this. I think it was the #1 song by a group called The Cunts, spelled with a K, K-U-N-T-S. And the song said, Boris Johnson is a pin cunt. Effing, you know what effing means. Boris Johnson is a effing. And I heard it on the radio being played. That was the #1 song, or if not #1 in the top 10 by Christmas in the UK. No. Suppose Boris Johnson, the British Prime Minister, saying, wait, I'm the Prime Minister of the UK. I'm a British Prime Minister, yeah? You can't say that about me, that I am a effing cunt. Yeah? You put that to song, then people are buying it, it's being played on the radio. That is offensive. I need whichever radio station is playing that to delete it from their playlist. I need that song to be banned. In the broad context of things, that song has gone to #1 because none of the regulators have taken any action in that regard. Right. And Boris Johnson will be seen as foolish if he complained about someone saying what they felt like about him, because many people say it's true, some say it's not true, but it's all in good fun, leave it alone. I use that example to say, what is it that we are going to complain about in terms of what is hate speech and racism? Because we're going to get to a stage where what we think is hateful or what we think is racist is not shared by other people. And then what will social media or any other outlet do? What will we compel them to do? So I'm saying this is all going to get a bit muddled at a certain point, and I don't know the impact that all of this will have on the concept of free speech.
Listen, George, I agree, and at the end of the day, you've hit a good point. It's all about interpretation. Let's agree on that. It's about interpretation. But for interpretation to be had, it obviously needs to be put to the persons to interpret it. The point that I was making is the fact that the people that make the decisions interpret whether or not it's racist, whether or not it's hate speech. They don't come from that background to be able to interpret it, meaning that they will never see certain actions as, of course, hatred, as, of course, racism, because of where they've gone up. For example, the English FA, they tried to bring in Paul Elliott, who was a black former footballer, that they tried to bring him into the board, and he was pushed out. There's 6 persons, white persons on the board, and what they are saying in England, what a lot of people are saying is, how do you expect to move forward with diversity and inclusion if you have people that don't understand diversity and inclusion because they don't come from certain backgrounds to be able to interpret these things the right way? So the point is, I agree with you, George, as it relates to interpretation, but you need, and this goes out to FIFA and UEFA as well, you need people that understand that to interpret it the right way, to be there, to make those decisions.
Yeah, and on the point of interpretation on the social media companies, look, a man sends you monkey emojis, you don't need, that means no interpretation. You know what he's saying, yeah? But I'm saying some of the other stuff. And then, when you throw into the mix, Brent, Mariah, the ridiculousness of Edinson Cavani being banned for 3 games for saying to his friend, Negrito. Yeah, you're telling him that he insulted his friend, despite his friend not coming forward to say he was insulted, despite Cavani apologizing within a couple of hours when he realized that you, the authority, would have moved against him for what he said, and despite it being a victimless crime because there was no victim, the victim didn't complain, you still punish the man with the same sanction you would have given someone who looked at you, Brent Sancho, or looked at me, or looked at Mariah and said, you black so-and-so, or you Indian so-and-so, you are this, you are that, and that is what is ridiculous. That is the world we live in.
But
Even as I welcome the move by the social media company, Mariah, we are on a slippery slope because it's muddled.
And I have to agree with you where you say we're on a slippery slope, because what means something today will mean something else tomorrow, and that's where I don't know how effective it will be, because you'll have to keep up. Something that might be racist in my time now may probably never be racist when I have grandchildren and whatnot. So I guess that is where it will be left up to a group of people to decide what's okay and what's not.
And I say this to you, can you imagine, in England, a song can be recorded saying Boris Johnson is a effing cunt. People laugh and it goes to #1 or goes to top 10. Can you imagine in Trinidad and Tobago, both of you are Trinis, someone doing a song saying Keith Rowley is a effing cunt? And it goes to #1 on the charts and everybody's playing it and dancing to it? Or Mia Motley is a effing cunt, or Andrew Holness? It wouldn't happen. But guess what? It happens in the UK, it's fine. It's the same way Cavani says Negrito in Uruguay, no problem. No problem. He says it in the UK, problem, ban, shame. We're on a slippery slope.
But who's interpreted in that, George? Of course.
That's the point you're making. That's the point you're making. Yeah.
And that's the problem. Until that changes, we're going to keep having this conversation and we're going to keep sliding down that slope. You're right. Because they're not in a position to make the decisions.